The night was heavy with the kind of silence that feels like it has teeth, biting at the edges of every sound as the rancher rode slowly along the forgotten trail, the moon cold and pale over the rugged land. His horse snorted in the cold, hooves crunching over brittle earth, when a shape emerged from the shadows, an old wagon left to decay by the roadside. Its wheels sunk into the mud like the bones of a dead beast, its canvas flapping like torn skin. Something about it pulled him closer, not out of curiosity but the instinct that had saved him. Too many times before, something was wrong. He dismounted, boots sinking into the damp soil, and stepped toward it with a hand brushing the handle of his revolver. The air smelled of rust and rain, and as he reached for the torn blanket draped over a bundle in the back, he felt that strange stillness deepen. When he pulled the blanket away, he froze in horror. There she was, a woman barely more than a shadow, her skin pale and bruised, her dress torn and stained with the dust of long miles, her wrists raw as if from ropes, her lips cracked from thirst and suffering. Her eyes flickered open like dying embers, and in a voice barely above a whisper, she breathed, "I'm already dead inside." The words cut through him, sharper than any blade, and for a moment he did not move. He had seen the wild take its share of the living, but this was something different. She wasn't asking for help. She was saying goodbye. The wind tugged at his coat as he wrapped her carefully in the same tattered blanket, lifted her in his arms and placed her across his saddle. There were no questions asked, not yet. Some stories came too heavy to speak on the first night. With a click of his tongue, the horse turned, and the rancher rode toward the faint glow of his homestead, the stars watching in their cold silence as if they, too, were waiting to see if this broken soul could be brought back from the edge. Morning broke slow over the ranch, the frost clinging to the fence posts, the cattle restless in their pens, the air tasting of smoke and coming snow. Inside the old wooden house, the fire crackled low as the woman lay wrapped in a fresh blanket, her breath shallow but steadier than the night before. The rancher moved quietly, heating water, tearing old linen for bandages, watching her with the kind of patience only a man who had seen too much of the world could carry. Hours passed with only the whisper of the wind outside and the occasional creak of the floorboards as he moved about. She did not speak at first, only stared into the fire with eyes that had seen something far beyond its warmth. It was not until the third day that her voice returned. "You shouldn't have brought me here," as dry grass. "Men like them. They don't stop." He said nothing, only handed her a cup of warm broth and sat across from her, the weight of his gaze enough to make her look away. She began to speak in fragments as the days passed, about a journey gone wrong, a promise of safety that turned into a trap, a group of men who took what they wanted and left her for the vultures when they were done. The rancher listened, his hands busy with the simple work of keeping the ranch alive, mending fences, hauling water, feeding livestock, but his mind stayed on her words, each one a thread that wove a picture of cruelty he had known too well in his younger years. There were names in her story he recognized, places where he once rode before he decided to leave that life behind. And now here it was, finding him again, wearing the face of a woman who said she was already dead inside. But he had seen death. This wasn't it. There was something left, something fragile that needed more than a roof and a fire. It needed a wall between her and the past that was hunting her. The storm rolled in on the fourth night, thick clouds blotting out the stars, the wind carrying the scent of rain and something darker. Men on horseback. 3 of them, their silhouettes crawling over the ridge like shadows with knives in their teeth. The rancher had been expecting them. Men like that always came to finish what they started. He checked his rifle, felt the cold steel of his revolver against his palm, and stepped onto the porch as the first drops of rain slicked the earth. Inside, she stood near the window, clutching the blanket around her shoulders, her breath fogging the glass as she whispered, "Go, please, they'll kill you for me." But he didn't move. The riders dismounted, their boots sucking mud, their grins sharp and cold. "We've come for her," the tallest one said, voice thick with liquor and arrogance. "Step aside, old hand." The rancher's jaw tightened. "Not tonight," he said, his voice steady as a church bell before a storm. What followed was fast, loud, and merciless, gunfire tearing through the rain, shadows leaping in the lightning's flash, the smell of powder choking the air. 2 men fell where they stood, their curses swallowed by the mud, and the third fled into the night with a promise of revenge that the hills alone would remember. When silence returned, the rancher stood bleeding from a shallow cut across his side, his rifle smoking in the cold. She stepped out, her eyes wide, her lips trembling not with fear now, but with something that looked like the first fragile spark of life. "Why?" she whispered, the word trembling like a leaf in the wind. He looked at her, rain dripping from the brim of his hat, and said quietly, "Because you're not dead inside, not yet. Not while you can still ask why." Dawn came pale and thin over the valley, the smoke of the night's fight still clinging to the air. But inside the house, the fire burned warm. And for the first time since he found her beneath that torn blanket, the silence did not feel like an ending. It felt like the start of something that might yet live. And you, dear reader, if this story held your heart for even a moment, if you want more, tales of courage born in quiet places and souls who learn to breathe again, subscribe now. Your support keeps these stories alive and lights the next fire on the trail ahead.